Everyone. Welcome to the Sasquatch Trail Runners podcast. My name is Kim Levinsky, owner and race director for Sasquatch Trail Runners. And today is December 10th, 2025. So we were getting near the end of the calendar year. For us, we just had our last big trail party of the year at the Squatchy Leftovers in November up in West Orange with record numbers. Over 400 people came out. It was awesome. And we're still riding that high. So we are getting into a little bit of our off season here. Off season doesn't mean events stop. We still have events, but more fun stuff like this where we hop on webinars and record podcasts when the temperatures drop a bit. So without further ado, I am joined tonight by my friend Yo. Yo is in the house. Welcome to the podcast, Yo. How you doing?
I am so good, incredibly honored and excited to be here. And I mean, any excuse to get to chat with you, I'm all for it. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. I want to provide a very brief intro for you, and then we can jump into our questions. So, Yolanda, aka Yo, is the co-founder of a new trail running group down in Nashville, Tennessee, down south, called Sin Miedo, and that translates to without fear or fearless. So, this is a space where BIPOC runners can come together to move, connect, build community, and be present with each other and with the land. And the two of us met this past October, which seems like a really long time ago, but I guess
It
it was
really
like,
does. I feel like I've been like 3 years ago or something.
right? I'm looking at the calendar. It was only like literally 2 months ago, but it feels like a very long time ago. But we met there at the US Trail Running Conference, and thanks to our mutual friend Carolina, she connected us, and we got to spend some time together there chatting all things trail and life. And I've been looking forward to this chat for a long time. We put this on the calendar a couple months ago, and I am just so stoked tonight to be chatting with you tonight.
Same. Super excited to be here.
It's awesome. All right. Well, with all of our podcast guests, I always love to ask the question to start, which is a good place to start, is just who are you? Like the elevator pitch of who is Yolanda, and then we can get into more of like the nitty gritty details. But if you want to cover a bit about your running story, and you can go into as much or as little detail as you want with this, and then you've had the questions ahead of time, so we'll jump into some deeper stuff after this. But fill us in, tell the people who you are and what you want them to know about you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me. My name is Yolanda Lopez Huagabook, and I am a proud Latina. I love building community. I love healing. I love everything movement. Everywhere that I go, I consider myself a wellness entrepreneur, a hybrid athlete, and I am the creator of YoFit, which is my personal brand, my wellness brand. And that is where I guide people through breathwork, somatic practices, grounding tools, and mainly that support emotional regulation, healing, reconnecting with the body, all those things. But I am also the co-founder of Sin Miedo, a BIPOC trail running community in the dirty South in Nashville, the first and only, the first and only BIPOC-led and centered trail running community. And that is where we create belonging. We love to embrace joy and, of course, courage to move in the trails. I started my running journey a little over a year now, and it was for my 40th birthday. I decided, you know what, I'm going to run a marathon. So in 5 months, couch to marathon, I did exactly that with the incredible help of my husband, Antoine, who is the co-founder of Sin Miedo, and of course the running community and everyone involved. But that experience, I know now for a fact, really changed everything for me. It's true what they say, running changes everything. It really showed me that um, what's possible, right? What, like, literally, when you choose yourself, what can be possible, and when you say yes to growth, that amazing things can happen. So now I help others tap into that strength, into whether it's physically or emotionally or spiritually, whatever it may be. But I help people now do exactly the same thing, believe in themselves, and whether that's through movement or community. But bottom line is, I think that at my core, I love building community. I'm a storyteller. I love to hold space for others, and my mission is really simple. I want to create spaces where people continue to feel seen, or maybe feel seen for the first time, that they feel supported, that they feel strong, and of course, ultimately without fear. So I'm also a mom to one young adult and two teenagers. And with that, my husband and I live in Nashville. And yeah, we are just really excited about the future of trail running as it pertains to BIPOC experience. And so super grateful to be here. That's a little bit about myself. I wear many hats, so let's just stop there.
Yes, it's true. I know. I was bouncing around on the various social media channels that you have, and I'm like, man,
All 20
there's
of them. No, I'm kidding.
oh my gosh,
Almost.
there's so many spinning plates, but I totally get that. The entrepreneur lifestyle in a way, you've got a lot of different pockets going on there. So I want to talk about your trail running group. I think it'd be cool to maybe chat about like the origin story of how it came
Absolutely.
about, and also like I think behind the name is really special. I think maybe
Mm,
if you could share a little bit about that, it'd be pretty cool to kind of set the stage of your running club, and then we can.
absolutely. So, Sin Miedo began through, I don't want to say necessarily by happenstance, but borderline that, because we had no intentions of, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself and my husband Antoine. I don't believe we ever had any intention of ending up trail running. We had several friends that would invite us, and we're like, no, that's not for us. And mainly just lack of knowledge about what trail running really is. And the other part, culturally, right? We always say people of color, we don't do that, right? We're not going to run around in the woods by ourselves for no reason. And so we didn't really have that intention of ending up as trail runners. However, there was an opportunity through the Running Industry Diversity Coalition, or the RIDC, to sign up for a cohort for BIPOC runners who had never experienced the trails before. And it's called Freedom to Run Back Outside. And so my husband sent me the link to sign up for this cohort. And I was like, nah, that's cute. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. We should check it out. And he actually signed up and I didn't. And so I didn't think he was serious. I mean, just bottom line, to get to the point. And so a few months later, after he sends me the link, he says, hey, he texts me and he's like, hey, I got an email back from the RIDC. I've been chosen for the program. Check your email, see if you got in too. And I was like, the what? And he's like, the trail thing. And I was like, ooh, about that. Well, my bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't think I got in because I didn't apply. And he was like, what do you mean you didn't apply? And I was like, no, I didn't think you were serious. And I think that it wasn't just that I didn't think he was serious. I was very hesitant myself, and I think taking it to the name Sin Miedo, or without fear, there was a lot of fear, right? Of like, what am I going to be doing in the trails? We had visited trail running groups before, maybe like once or twice, and our experience had been that in a group of 60, we were the only people of color. And so when I say people of color, I'm talking about Black, Indigenous, Asian, Muslim. There's this huge group of us that just do not identify with non people of color. And
Mhm.
so for us, it was just like, okay, this is a little awkward, you know? And I always like to say this because I think it's important. It wasn't that anybody specifically said anything to us.
Yeah.
It's just that feeling, it's immediate, where people look at
Mhm.
you and you're just like, this is a little different, right? And I have purple hair, so like that just I forget that I do. To me, it's brown now, like it's my new brown. Like I've had it for so long that I don't even remember that I have purple hair. So there's a lot of attention there, right? And
Right.
so anyway, to fast forward, he started the cohort with a coach, and the RIDC is an incredible organization, and they provide access, and whether that's with shoes, or whether that is with gear to run, whether that is maybe scholarships for people to go experience things like TRE. We just got back from the running event.
Right.
Whether that's facilitating access for people to maybe gain a job within the running industry, or maybe even owning a running specialty store, right? There's so many things that they do. And so he got started. We made a pact when we got married, simple as where you camp, I camp, right? So in this case, where you run, I run. He ran my first marathon with me. And so now I was like, guess I'm going to be a trail runner
Yes.
because he's trail running. So I'm going to be trail running, I guess. Right. So we went back. And again, it wasn't that anybody said, you're not welcome here, but immediately it felt different. And nobody really spoke to us, with the exception of one woman that was there. I will always remember her, and she's a fearless ally to us even now.
Mm,
And then the person who was in charge was kind of like, who are these people, right? And then with time, he showed us around and whatever. But there was still this undertone of like, why are we here again? Like, what is this? And so very quickly we understood that the need was there already, right? That the whole point of what the RIDC was doing was already showing up immediately.
mm.
So to fast forward, we kept going back. We also met one of our friends who is one of our founding members, Gabe Marrero. He was also a cohort recipient. Now, mind you, out of 245 ish participants or applicants, only 14 got
Oh,
chosen.
wow.
So
Wow.
the odds of that really happening is
Yeah,
like, now it's like it was meant to be, right? So two
totally.
of us, well, I say us, but two of them in the same city was even crazier, right? The
Right.
odds of that happening. So we end up meeting up with him. We go back to the run, and people are still looking at us like, okay. And there was a comment there, right, without any details. And the comment was, y'all ain't had enough yet? And that was the moment that I was like, no,
Oh,
we haven't.
oh my God.
And we won't, right? And it was just like this moment of like, okay, I'm going to be a trail runner now, because now I'm really not going anywhere.
Yeah,
We didn't know, but we did know that we had friends that are people of color that were already doing trail running on their own and here and there with each other, but not very many. We had some road running friends that were curious but never really did it. And so one day it just kind of happened. We ended up running together on a Sunday,
mm,
and when we pulled up to the park, to the trailhead, I mean, there was really no words. I don't even have to elaborate because there really weren't any words. We looked at each other, my husband and I looked at him and I said, "We're telling them today?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I guess so." And it was just
mm,
understood. I got out of the car, and the first thing I said, as everybody's still putting on their shoes and putting on bug spray and whatever, and I said, "Hey, if we were to start a BIPOC centered trail running group or community," because I knew that it was going to be bigger than just a run club, right? I always say we're not just a little run club.
yeah.
Um, would you all support it? And they immediately were like, yeah, yeah,
Mm,
let's do it. Yeah, yeah,
love
that'd be
that.
cool. There's
Yeah.
a video on our Instagram. It's pinned to our Instagram for anybody who wants to watch it, of our very, very first run. And it was six of us. And then we always include Gabe, even though he wasn't physically there that day, because he had already been running with us. So seven of us, essentially. And when we got done running, it was just this like emotion and feeling of belonging, of like excitement, of like, oh my gosh, we've never done this before. It was exciting. And it was like, this is what we're doing. I don't think they knew how passionate I am about everything. I always say this because I must say it. Within the first week, we had a logo, we had a Halo group, we had an Instagram, we put
Wow. Wow.
we started growing like wildfire of people just curious of like, what is this thing, right? And so we just took off, and we from the very beginning, it was important for us to set a foundation of what BIPOC centric meant, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Right.
But it was important for us to really make it about the BIPOC community, because we knew that we had a lot of very passionate allies, but we didn't want to be outnumbered by those passionate allies. So
Right.
the work really came with that. And I don't think that we knew exactly what that would be till it started happening. So to your question about the Sin Miedo, why Sin Miedo, is because in the interim of all of that, we realized that people of color have always had to fear something, whether it's persecution, whether it's not belonging, whether it's being not valued for their worth or their skills or their abilities, right? Whatever it is, or just in general of where you go, especially right now with the climate, if you will, in our country, and just having to hide and having to be careful in everything that you do. There's always been this or this fear of existing. And so we wanted to change that narrative and bring back
Mm.
this fearlessness of taking on something that didn't seem natural. Because again, culturally, we're taught to fear these things, to fear being alone out on the trails, to not move without a group, to whatever, right? Whatever that case may be, or fear of water, fear of everything, right? And so for us, it was important that people knew right off the bat that we were going to embrace things that we had never done before, and that we didn't exactly know what the heck we were doing, but that we were going to figure it out. And more importantly, the name in Spanish, because we wanted to create discomfort. We wanted to push people into pronouncing it and asking and remembering it and saying it, right? Our logo is a African adinkra symbol, and it's called Inshimshim, which symbolizes the twists and turns of life, and
Mm.
how there's always going to be winding roads, if you will.
Mhm.
But there's always exits, there's always ways. And so for us, that just reminded us of the trails and just like the journey we were embarking. We have three colors on our logo: orange, blue, and yellow. And orange is for the vibrancy of our communities, right? To keep it simple. Blue is for the sky, for reminding ourselves to look up, to always keep our chin up, to always, think about how vast and wide this earth is, this world is, whether that's in water, whether that's in the sky. And then yellow, for us to remember that I kind of remember like Simba, right? Everything the light touches.
Yes.
And similarly for us, that everything the light touches is ours too. And
Mm.
that no matter the darkness that we may face, the light will always prevail. And so that yellow reminds us of that like beaming sun, and then a little bit of the spiciness of the trails, right? When you're out there in the scorching sun,
Yeah.
all the things. So that's a little bit of what Sin Miedo is all about, and how we got started. And, we're just incredibly grateful to be sharing that now with so many people.
I love that. Yeah, and it's grown like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious, do you have stats on like
Yeah. So we
I'm sure you
started,
do, but yeah.
yeah. So we started, like I said, with originally seven, right?
Uh-huh.
Once we formed something. And right now we're at 125-ish, 26, I think, something like that, active members, with
Amazing.
another maybe 20 that are not necessarily active, but they're there and they're watching, and they're just kind of like they show up. When I say active, I mean in our Halo private group. So
Okay.
they show up to like run once in a while. So they're watching, but they're not really like, they're still kind of figuring it out. Sometimes they come and race with us and we don't even know they're coming, right? So, but yeah, and so that was at the end of May, beginning of June, end of May of 2025. And so now we're in December. So what's that, like 7 months or so?
Yeah.
And we just didn't even realize that there was so much need
Mhm.
for that here specifically. We knew that there was a huge gap in the trail space in general, right?
Mhm.
But we just had no idea that there was so many people just waiting for an opportunity. We have athletes that, used to be prime athletes in their countries, and then they move to the US and all they do is work or take care of their families, and a lot of those dreams die with that, right? And so
Mm.
we've had people say, you've rekindled my passion for trail running or for running in general. And then we have the other extreme of that, people that have never even considered running, but they
Yeah.
love the outdoors, they love being in the woods or in the trails, and so they're like, oh well, let me see. And now we're creating together this community of runners, but they're all trail runners, which is insane, right? You always think of people just wanting to run like a 5K or something. We
Right.
have a big group going to a race here. It's called Lookout Mountain on December 20th. And we have people doing 50 miles. We have people doing 18, technically 20, because you know how that goes. And, and then we have our 10K group, right? First time runners. And so
Mhm.
it's incredible just to see the growth that it's had, and it's not slowing down even in the cold. So we're excited about that.
Totally. I love that. I think that segues really nicely into the next question because you started to bring up some of these specifics, but if you could put into words, like, what are some of those barriers that BIPOC runners are facing when trying to enter into trail running? Because you, like you just said, like, you guys are truly meeting a need where all these people are coming out of the woodwork. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and I know you can speak from your own experience, but what would you say? Because this is actually kind of where we had our first initial conversation at the conference. Was there was a
Mhm.
very heated uh, interaction where,
Commentary.
yeah, very interesting. Talking about um, which it's ironic because I think the gentleman brought up one of the biggest barriers by saying it's not a barrier, saying there's
Yeah,
nothing that should be keeping people from trail running. Well, that in fact, in and of itself,
is the problem.
is a big problem. So,
Yeah,
I what if you mind chatting about some of
of
those things
course.
that you see in your experience?
Yeah, and I do want to, what was it, a bit of a plug here. The RIDC, the program that my husband Antoine and Gabe were a part of, the whole purpose of that program was to create something tangible with
Mm,
information of this type of research. What are the literal barriers that people of color are facing
hmm.
when it comes to experiencing the outdoors, specifically trail running?
Yeah.
So I know we got the opportunity to see, I guess you could say, like a pre-release of that research at TRE. By the way, lots of tears were shed because we're in the book, and it's just insane to see it on paper. Like, wow, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't believe we were part of this and how
Mm,
important this research and this information is. So stay tuned, because once that drops, there will be more specifics on what those barriers are across the board, right? Because the
awesome.
barriers of people in the South might be slightly different than the people in the West Coast. Nonetheless, the BIPOC experience, there's barriers there. So I just want to say that because I know that it's important for your listeners to also have tangible tools that they can, or resources that they can go to, and I know that that's coming. But a lot of the barriers really, I think, come down to us not seeing ourselves in the space, first of all. So when
Hmm.
you show up to a trail run and no one looks like you, it's hard to feel safe or welcomed,
Yeah.
and it really like makes you question if you belong there. I think that there's a lot of like throwing around this thing of representation, but
Hmm.
representation truly does matter more than people realize.
Right.
And I think that that's the first part of the barriers, right? Another barrier is, and it has been in our experience too, access and knowledge.
Mm,
Many of us, like I said, did not grow up hiking or running, and or even spending time on the trails. As a
yeah.
matter of fact, when I told my father about what we were doing, I was ready for him to say, "What are y'all doing? Are you crazy?" And the complete opposite. He was like, "I've never stepped foot on
Mm,
trails." And it
right.
made me realize that my mother hadn't either. And then it made me realize that I was almost a repeat of that. And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
everything feels new to us because we haven't really been told that it's okay for us to be there.
Right.
Although that all of this is ancestral. There's times where we run together and you can hear the feet on the ground and it's like drumming and you feel it, right?
Mm,
So everything from like the routes, the gear, the etiquette, um, anything that has to do with being deep in the woods are things that we're just not familiar with right off the bat. So that can really be intimidating when you don't have someone guiding you. Matter of fact, when we first started, our friend Alicia, shout out to our nature girl, because she is very well versed. She's a professor, all the things. And so she would help us, right? Like reading the signs and telling us which way to go, how to follow the
mm,
colors, what to do, what not to do. And then, as we started growing, we were like, uh-oh, because we only have one Alicia. So now, how can we make sure that people are not getting lost?
yeah.
Sometimes people miss because XYZ. So we can't count that every single Sunday the same people will be there to do the same things, right? People will
Right.
go out of town, whatever. And so for us, we knew that we had to start to teach our community safety, because
Mm,
that's always at the top of the list, what
yeah.
to do, how to follow the trails. And so we cannot ignore that the reality um, of being out in the woods requires a complete different level of caution than someone
Mm,
who's not a person of color. So with Sin Miedo, we try to remove as many of those barriers. We keep things as simple as we possibly can and as supportive as we possibly can. And I always say that our driving force is always community first.
Yeah.
Um, because again, safety is so important. So we meet people where they're at. We teach people the basics. We move together. We partner with brands that are really, we say, really about that life, that are really truly making space for people of color that are wanting to support those things that we need. And we show up consistently as much as possible because otherwise people feel alone. And if we kind of meet up, we kind of are nice one week, but not the next week, they're just like, what is it? So we started to create this culture of that the barriers that keep us from showing up are as best as we can non-existent when we're together, right? Whether that's Goo, shout out to Goo, they've been the best nutrition partner ever. Here's the gels, here's the energy chews, here's right, because how can I possibly tell them you need a not that that's exactly right, but you need $150 pair of shoes, then you need $20 socks, then you need right, and you got $3 for each of these gels, and you need six of them, and they're looking at me like, what are
Yeah.
these things even for?
Totally.
And how, and then you want me to drive to, because again you have to think about where are the trails located. So all these barriers start to add up. And so what we try to do is hope and do our best to eliminate as many of those as we can and remind them like, hey, you belong here, you're safe here, and you don't have to do this alone. And so as far as the barriers, I think that access, belonging, and safety are probably at the top of the list for most people of color.
Yeah. I'm curious. And I mean, you guys, you're just getting off the ground, but you've had so much growth over, the course of from start to finish or start to present where we are now. I'm curious if was there anything that's come up along the way where, because I have this all the time as a race director where I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. Or somebody brings something to your attention. You're like, okay, let's start implementing this. Is there anything that you've picked up from community members that have now become like a part of your your culture and your group runs and stuff like
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh girl, they don't let us we cannot get away with anything in this community, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because again, when they showed up for the first time, we let's say we treat them this way,
Hmm.
welcoming, we're celebrating them, right? We're making sure that everybody's comes back. We when they don't show up to run, we check on them, right?
Right.
I mean, we don't pester them. We wait, right? Maybe a week or two. We don't see you for 2 weeks. Like, hey, just checking in. And so now, well, what they've done is taken that to a whole nother level, right? We
Mm,
had people who literally will run the whole course and then we'll run it backwards to make sure that all the people that are in the back of the pack or that are
yeah.
maybe new that are coming back. And so then you can't lax on that anymore. That
Hmm.
becomes culture. At the
Right.
end, one of my favorite ones I think is when everybody comes back to the trailhead, everybody claps. Like
I
they
love that.
celebrate them like big.
Yeah.
It was just us like, all right, you got this, just to like encourage them. And now it's like a whole like cheer squad. And one day I need to record it because, well, we do have videos actually. I should post them so you can see them. But like they just uproar of celebration, and we don't have to tell them anymore. Like, hey, let's see they just on their own, and they check on each other.
Yeah.
It's for us. It's been like, okay, this is what community is about. Matter of fact, one of my favorite things that have recently happened is we had a Dia de los Muertos run for the Day of the Dead, which is a holiday that we celebrate to honor our ancestors and our loved ones who have passed and just create a remembrance for them. And so
Mhm.
we do our best to celebrate different cultures within our group so that we can learn from each other and we can see the similarities and differences but how we are connected, and then to obviously also expose our allies to that so that they can learn more about the BIPOC experience. But anyway, all that to say that we had an altar where you bring like food, and you bring pictures of your loved ones, and you honor them and the things that they loved. And we just said, if anybody wants to bring photos or things of their loved ones, you're welcome to do that. And oh my goodness, there was not a dry eye. And it
Oh,
was just like
wow.
happy tears, right? Because we were able
Yeah.
to remind them, even though they're gone, that they're here, that they run with us, that they're there with us. And it's just so beautiful. And at the very end of that, shout out to New Balance, because we partnered with New Balance for this event. And our local New Balance rep reposted our reel and said, "This is not just a running club. This is family." And we didn't ask him to
Mhm.
do that. And so when
Yeah.
other people notice, right, one thing we get a lot is, y'all hug a lot. uh, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know why we do, but we do. Like everybody's like, bye, 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 right? And it's
Yeah.
also cultural, right? A lot of us. But just looking out for each other, I think, is like the one thing that we really have picked up as part of our culture. I mean, we've had even at races where people run out of goo because they gave it to another person that
Yeah.
we run with, right? Because they needed it more. And I'm like, y'all, just tell me I got more goo, you know? But they're learning, right? And then next time they know like, okay, I have to have mine and a little extra. And so, yeah, I think that that's one of the best things we've picked up is just the way that they have held us accountable, I guess you can say,
Mm.
to to the way that we support and we create community, and that's been really awesome for us to experience.
Yeah, that is awesome. You've mentioned a couple times about allyship, and I think um, it's definitely key in expanding inclusivity. So, this question is: what do you wish non-BIPOC runners understood about supporting BIPOC-led movements, like Sin Miedo? Like, what would you say to that? Thoughts that you have on that?
Yeah, I think that the first thing that I would say that I wish non BIPOC people would know is that this is a real life. I think a lot of times it's easy for someone who doesn't have this experience to just assume that we're just being dramatic, or that we're being needy, or that we're being over the top, which is a lot of the labeling that always happens for people of color. And so I think that it's important for people to really, really like dial in onto the fact that this is real. This is our everyday life. And it's important for people to know that, and I'm getting emotional because it's even hard to have to explain,
Yeah.
right? There has to be this empathy that I think a lot of people, especially those who claim to want to have um, allyship with people of color,
Hmm.
that there needs to be. I don't even think it's empathy. I think it's a responsibility
Yeah.
for the way that they show up, and really take the time to allow us to show up the way that we are. And I think
Hmm.
that that's sometimes really difficult for people to do. I mean, we had a taste of that, right, in this
The Chuck conference.
experience we had, right,
Yeah.
where because it hasn't been your experience, it's kind of dismissive. So I really wish that they would understand that allyship is about intention. That's the word.
Right.
It's intentional, and it comes with awareness, and it's not about control or visibility, because this allyship thing also gets a little muddled and messy. We had a few experiences, especially in the very beginning of forming Sin Miedo. Like I told you, we were very solid on having a foundation that said we were BIPOC centered. And
Right.
so when our allies get excited about supporting us, they also kind of get muddled on what that really means. So
Mm.
I truly believe that supporting a BIPOC led movement means respecting that space,
Right.
the culture that it comes with, the purpose behind it. It means understanding, right? Understanding that we what we built, in our case, we built Sin Miedo because there were real gaps in safety, real gaps in
Yeah.
access and representation. We are not like recreating something that already exists, because it doesn't.
Hmm.
For us, being, to our knowledge, the only and first BIPOC centered trail community in the South, it's a big responsibility. And
Yeah.
it doesn't really dawn on you till you like take a zoom back, especially for example at the running event in San Antonio, we got to hang out with a lot of communities of colors through the RIDC, and that's when it really dawned on us, like, oh man, like we really are the only ones in the South doing this.
Right.
And so we're feeling that a need that has been overlooked for a long time. So allyship looks like listening before leading. It
Mm.
looks like showing up in supportive roles without trying to center yourself. We've ran into things of like, okay, well, we're going to sponsor this, but what are you going to do for us? And it's like, that's not what an allyship is. It looks
Yeah.
like respecting those boundaries of the space uh, that has been designed to prioritize the voices and experiences of those runners who have not always been welcome in the outdoors.
Hmm.
I think outside of that, I also wish allies would understand how powerful their quiet support is
Mm.
and how it can be. And it's not necessarily about centering anyone. And usually I wouldn't, but like I'm gonna say it anyway because we just experienced this at TRE with Goot Energy Labs. They were that ally, and I couldn't even express to them how grateful we felt because they created the kind of access that we've been fighting for us.
Mm.
And even then, they were like, "No, no, no, no! Stop praising us! No, we don't want that! No, no, no! This is about you all. What do you need?" But it needs to be said because those type of allyships where they ask for nothing, they're quiet, they want to learn, they want to
Yeah.
support, they ask you, what do you need, not what I need. That's the kind of allyships that we need. And so when non-BIPOC runners understand that, they become part of the resolution and help create an outdoor space culture where everyone can thrive. Because if we're thriving and we're attached to your brand and we're just putting it out there, or even just races or whoever, why should I bring 30 people to your race? Why?
Right.
Because it's that easy. I can say, hey, we're doing this race and 30, 40 people will sign up. But then we get there and we're treated not very nicely.
Mm.
Then why should I do that? So it's not necessarily about how loud of an ally you can be. It's about how, again, aware and intentional of an ally you can be. And that truly marks the difference big time for communities of color. Big, big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if I think it'd be really valuable to, and this is something I don't think there's enough conversations about in the running space, is like the climate of our country right now. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you want to speak to that specifically on, I'm just thinking of our conversation so far. We've been talking for 37 minutes. Safety has come up a lot, and I'm just wondering,
Hmm.
like, if you want to speak on that a little bit more on like your experiences on the trail and how we can improve as a trail community, and also like you've already said this once, but it's the lack of awareness of that
Hmm.
specific thing that to me is
Yeah,
very disturbing. That like
absolutely.
people are very, I've encountered kind of like, well, it's not a big deal. Like we can go out in the woods and run. Well, actually, like right now, especially, it's that's very very challenging. So just wondering if you want to
Absolutely.
chat a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think for us, it's kind of like a sword with two ends, right? Where
Mhm.
this space is so needed, but it's also like a huge responsibility of just even thinking or knowing that even on the way to a run, some of our people could never make it home.
Yeah.
And especially, like I said, in the South, it's a whole nother layer of the unknown because
Yeah.
you just don't know who you're in front of and
Hmm.
you don't know who really is watching you and what kind of um, intentions they may have or what kind of anger or what kind of agreement they may have with what's going on.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, some of our first runs were right in the middle of a lot of the raids here in Nashville. And it was like, should we do them? Should we not? And so we were like, please be safe.
Mm.
And then people were like, but I need this. We had people show up and just crying at the end and being like, I've been hiding in my home for 8 weeks, and this is the first time that I feel free again and I feel like I can breathe. Then you're talking about traveling for races, right? Like I said, we have a race and it's a very at least especially for me as a Latina, is a very fine line
Mm,
of how much responsibility do we have? Should we, you know, even be talking about going racing, or are
mm,
we stealing their joy because we're making a decision for them that is not ours to make? But also, are we pushing, so it's really sucky that we have to even be the ones responsible for any of it because we're not the ones creating the chaos.
yeah.
And so it's really hard to navigate those things in general. And you have, of course, other cultures within our BIPOC community that don't have those experiences
Mm,
at all. That they're
mhm,
like, I,
yeah.
I don't know what's going on. So
Right.
it's also teaching them, or sharing with them, like the real fears and the real challenges and the real, um, you know, even possible unsafe moments that some of their counterparts, part of their communities, can be experiencing, right?
Mhm,
We went to the, what is it, the St. Jude Marathon, and there was a little bit of, it was in Memphis. There was a little bit of Memphis things going on. And it's just like, why are y'all even here? Like, people are just running, right? And so it just feels really big. And it's just one more thing to add to the list of things we need to fight through, to
mhm,
just be who we are meant to be, to just be
mhm.
runners, to just experience things that someone else doesn't ever have to worry about, right? And so I think it's important for people to, again, going back to the empathy and responsibility of just being mindful of other people's experiences, even within our own communities, right? And it's really important to also remember that if you are an ally, that allyship doesn't always mean walking behind us, right? That's
Mhm,
when we do the silent allyship, or the quiet one, right? So that we can thrive. There's an allyship that requires you to stand next to us and walk hand in hand, right?
mhm.
But then there's the allyship that requires you to stand in front of us and be that barrier, be that
Yeah,
wall, so that we don't receive those hits, that you protect us, that you look out for us. We have a couple of really amazing allies in the trail running community here in Nashville, that, they'll reach out, they know we're doing a race, and they'll say, hey, what are you guys doing? Where are you staying? How can I help? How can I support? What do you need me to bring?
yeah.
And so those are the type of allies that we want to link arms with, because they truly make a difference.
Mhm,
But yeah, it's a difficult time to navigate, and it's just never ending, uncertainty, and the unknown. And we're just doing our best to navigate it and to be as supportive as we can. We've had a few people stop running with us for a while, then they'll come back when they feel safe
yeah,
again. And we encourage that, right? We say, like, look, do not think for 1 second that we're going to be upset, or that you have to
yeah,
come.
right.
Like, please do not. And at the same time, what we do to make sure that we create as much safety as possible, we never run in the same place every week. So we
Mm,
always are rotating where we are. We do not share our location publicly on social media. It's always in our private group, and our private group is composed of only BIPOC members.
yeah,
We do have an ally group, and that's separate from that. And we share with them our monthly ally run only. And they respect that. They give space for us to thrive together and to be together. We encourage people to stay together in groups of 3 or 4, and that's also just the rule of our trails anyway, so it just works out. And we try to, again, go back for each other and make sure that everybody, that we can see each other. Like, if there was somebody that kind of stayed by themselves a little bit further back because they were having a little bit of a harder time or whatever, whoever's in front, they know
mhm,
to, like, keep looking back. If I can see you, then we're good. If I can't see you, I'm stopping, because we're not racing. And even if we were racing, like, that's just our culture. We're
right.
stopping, we're waiting for you, we're making sure that you are well. And then again, we check on each other and see what, if somebody needs to ride with someone else or whatever the case may be. But it is really difficult times to navigate, and it's really disgusting, the amount of things that are happening to our communities of color, and how there's been a lot of loss of respect of who's who, what's what, and sometimes it's just a even sweep, and it's very scary, and it's very, heartbreaking to see that
Mm.
happening to our communities.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, because you're bringing runners to lots of different races. So you've been to different venues, different size races. Just curious from your experience, like, what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced along the way in terms of, like, if you could say to event organizers, hey, if you guys could make this change, it would help, our group with safety or whatever type of logistics. That can be from, like, getting race entries at an event, or from the very tangible, like from arriving there on site to the finish with safety in mind. Just curious if there's things that's popped up along the way where, maybe you've seen some races do it better than others. You don't have to name names, but
Mm.
just curious your experience there.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that, and it's really simple, and we just did it for another race that we're considering. Um, if you all have people of color who have come to your races, please put their picture, if
Oh my
with their
God.
consent, obviously. It's
Yeah.
really that simple. Please put them
Yeah.
in your marketing, on your race sign up thing, whichever, whether it's ultra sign up or run, whatever it is,
Right. Right.
whatever platform you're using. Because the first thing we did, I'm not even exaggerating, is say, how many people of color can we find? And
Yeah.
we found one picture for this race with 3 people of color on it, and that was enough for us to feel safe to come.
Right.
And that's pretty kinda, like, sad that we have to do that.
Yeah.
So if there are people participating, just inclusive all the way. I mean, across the board, not just people of color, but like, there's races that will post LGBTQ plus members, on their website, or have like little tags that say, "We welcome all," or
Yeah.
whatever. Those things make a difference because if I go on there and no one looks like me, I mean, I probably still will do it just because, again, Sin Miedo, hence the name,
Mm.
but it does feel different. And the one that we're doing here in a week, one of our very passionate allies reached out and said, "Hey, I've done this race 6 times and I'm coming with." And because we know that she's a huge advocate for people of color, a huge advocate, then it made it all that much better because we were kind of like, oh, well, let's see how it goes. The boys are signed up already. Some of our guys are doing 50 miles and they're ready. So we're going to go with them. We're going to pull up. We're going to support them. And then because we're going now, other people want to go. But it does matter, right? Maybe even if you do have community advocates, right, that are very well submerged or involved with communities of color, um, having them reach out, right, and maybe making a video and talking about safety tips or whatever. I don't know, whatever works, because I know that there's so many different versions of these communities, but hands down, I think the easiest one is to include people of color in your marketing, in your visibility, and it's really just that simple. Not with the intention of making them token children, right? Again, like I said, with their permission. Um, but I think that would be like the easiest one, right? Um, but I think more importantly, especially if we're talking about race and like race directors or people that really want to be involved in like an active allyship, I guess you can say. I think we had mentioned it in one of the questions that you sent about like the performative allyship, right?
Yes,
How
that was the
can we
next
go
question.
from,
Yeah.
yeah, how can we go from this performative allyship and like really do it?
Yeah.
I think that we need to remember that diversity and inclusion is not like just checking off boxes.
Yeah.
Again, I cannot emphasize enough that these are lived experiences that we're having. So if we really want to go beyond that, or if you want to go beyond that performative allyship, you need to be willing to do the very slow, the very uncomfortable, the very honest work that actually
Mhm.
changes the culture.
Yeah.
Because I think just saying, well, what can we do? And if it's we can start as simple as including people of color in your marketing, and not like stock photos either. We know.
Seriously.
We can pick them out. You know what I mean? We know which ones were the paid cans, and which ones are actual people that
Yeah,
have experienced it. You can tell right away.
right.
Um, but start by listening, right? Have more intentional education, right? Maybe instead of, for example, we had someone tell us like, oh, we have, these resources and you all should use them. And it's fantastic. Thank you. But
Mm,
what should have really happened is, hey, we have these people of color that can speak to your experience and can give you the tips that you need for you to be successful on the trails,
mm,
right? Yes, I want to hear from everyone, but my experience will never be the same as yours.
yeah.
And for us, when we created our first, we had like a shop night, and we were like, how can we educate our members on the trails? We went and sought out people of color that are already in that space, already doing, um, you know, ultras, and they're doing all these incredible things and work within the trail running space, and had them come out and
Mm,
speak, right? With everything from like land, um, conserving the land, and the, from that to like experiencing a trail race, 200 or 300 miles across however many continents, and what that looks like, to just simple things like gear and being an outfitter, whatever.
yeah,
And so that's important, right? That our allies also seek out the people that look like us for these conversations, because that's what our experiences look like. So listening, right? Listening, not to respond, but to understand. The communities you want to support already know the what the barriers are for them.
yeah.
So if you say that you care about inclusion, then how are you investing in it?
Mhm.
Invest in BIPOC-led groups, right? I've heard a lot when I talk about um, possible scholarships and things like that for our athletes. One of the things that I get a lot is, yeah, well, we have a few scholarships and then we also have discounts. Like, that's not an investment.
Yeah.
When and I understand, like, not everyone makes the same amount of money with their races, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. But there's always a way to even invest into two or three athletes and say, you know what, this is not just an entry level scholarship. We're doing everything to make possible that you get here, or
Mm,
that you get to this race, or
mhm.
or hey, we cannot, and it's about transparency, right? Like, we cannot fly you out here or bring you out here, but you know what, we're going to cover your race, we're going to cover your shoes, we connected with this brand and this brand and this brand, and now they're going to put you in front of that, because we have athletes that they just need an opportunity,
Yeah.
right? They just need someone to invest in them. And so it's important, right, that
Mhm.
it shows up in action, in the budgeting, in the decision making. We get a lot of like, oh, that sounds really great, but I'm not the person that makes the decision, right?
Mm,
Instead of saying, you know what, this sounds really great, I'm going to take this to the person who
yeah.
makes the decision, right? So it's almost like dismissive. So um and willing to be uncomfortable, right? To sit in that discomfort of not having all the answers right away, or
Mm,
not being able to solve everything right away, and continue to try. So equity work will always challenge those habits, the
mhm.
assumptions that people have, the privilege. Oof, people don't like it, right? That privilege, we've witnessed that, right, at the conference, where
Yeah.
you don't know what that is, because your privilege has never had to put you in that position of not
Yeah.
knowing what that's like. So
Mhm.
because of these things, it's not a reason to step back. We've had things like, well, next year when we restructure the budget,
Mm,
right? Those kind of things. And so this is an open invitation, all that to say that this is an open invitation to step up. Step up, step
mhm.
in. Most of all, remember that this work is about people. We're not just numbers, right? I shared this at the trail conference. I'll share it here now. When we were, dealing with this whole, why isn't there enough data of who's actually
Yeah.
showing up?
Right.
And I said it, and I'll say it again. There might be a group of people that get angry that this is happening, and they might feel sad, There might be another group of people that feel confused and like, why is this even a thing? I don't think it's a
Yeah.
big deal. And then there's us in the middle. And if we're not accounted for, if we're not seen, if we're not supported, if we're not uplifted, we're just invisible.
Yeah.
Nobody ever knew we were there.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, those 30 people paying 100 and something for the race, that's money for
Mm.
race directors. That's money for the brands that are there, right? We're buying the shoes, we're buying the gear, we're buying the airfare, we're buying whatever. And so it's important that this accessibility and inclusion is not treated like a trend, like, oh, let's
Yeah.
be those people because we don't want to look like the bad guy, right? These are long-term commitments. And my hope is that more of the trail community steps into that work with openness, humility, and heart, and are willing to do the work. Otherwise, we're just playing patty cake, and it's not really going to go anywhere. And it makes the job of community leaders like myself and my husband and that much harder because we
Yeah.
can only access so much. And so we
Mhm.
need those allyships to be able to completely round it out and help our community thrive.
Yeah. Something that came to mind when you were talking about seeking out BIPOC perspectives was one of the experiences at the conference. I don't know if you remember this, but we were in that little round circle talking about language barrier, and one of the other race directors poses the question to, I mean, all white
To
people, right?
yes.
Instead
Yeah.
of going this to you and asking you, like, it was mind blowing. It was mind blowing. That was
Yeah. And yeah, and it was one of those things where it was myself and or another person that was there with us that was also Spanish speaking,
yeah,
also Latina, and we were in the group and he's saying, I don't know how to reach, people that are Spanish speaking and I was so eager to like answer the questions. And so he directed himself to a white person and we were just so like disappointed. And I don't
mm,
even know if we should have been, but it was just kind of like, okay, here we go. They're wanting to make the change, and it was like, womp womp, right? And at the same time, it's not our responsibility to educate anyone.
yeah,
If you're not willing to come and ask the questions, if you're
right,
not willing to do the research, to get uncomfortable, to ask for help, then we can't keep being the ones coming to you and saying, hey,
yeah,
this is how you do it, because it's has to come from a place of I am willing, I am wanting, and I am more than ready
mhm,
to make a change. But if we're seeking you, then it's just forced. It's like, here,
yeah,
let me spoon feed you,
yeah,
or force feed you, right? And I think that that's something that needs to change. And so I hope that with a little bit of the conversations we had, it at least sparked some interest or some, you know, movement in that place, but privilege tends to just kind of suave that out. Well, it's not in front of me anymore, so I guess I can just move on.
mm,
And that's the hard part about, creating, um, holding people accountable without having to be, again, holding people accountable, you know?
totally. I mean, I see that and you don't have to talk specifically about this. I'll just say I see it in gatherings too, where there's panels and it's constant. I know because I have friends, BIPOC friends. It's like it's a constant fight to get into those conversations when instead, like, it should just be a part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what's so, I mean, it's frustrating for me to watch, but I can't even imagine, the frustration you're experiencing when that's it's like running into a wall over and
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, it comes from this idea that people of color are not equipped or as skilled or as smart or as talented. I don't even know what the word
Oh
are,
my
but
god. I'm like
as
gonna barf.
others. Yeah,
Why?
yeah. And I mean, we had, incredible opportunities at TRE to see some really powerful panels.
Hmm.
And, to not give too many details because it's not my story to tell, but we
Yeah.
had someone in front of us that was a research professor. She was incredible, just incredibly knowledgeable, and not only that, but she was just a bundle of good positivity and joy.
Yeah.
And but when you would see her, most people would assume that she was really, really young, that you would never know she has a PhD and is a professor, right? To
Mm,
my point. And so when she gave all of that and started talking about her research and all these things, I mean, it is what it is. The white people in the room were just kind of like open mouth and just kind of stunned.
mm,
And it makes you think like, is that the reaction she should be getting? Or should they be like, oh, this is really interesting information?
totally.
Is it, what is it? And we know what it is because of the perception that they have about her. And for us to hear her speak was like, heck yeah, like we're getting to start to slowly but surely change the narrative around these panels and these, informational panels that coming from different voices, and not
Yeah.
just for people of color, but for other people that are not people of color, to see the, again, the capability that people of color do have, and that
Hmm.
there's so much to learn from one another,
Hmm.
and people are just not willing to do that. And so that gets frustrating. Again, for me, I get that often. There's been a thing always of like the purple hair, and do you even speak English? Like,
Yeah.
and so it really forces you into a space of borderline needing to assimilate, right? And
Mm,
so luckily for a lot of us, especially for me, over the years I've been able to unlearn those behaviors and just be myself, right? And
yeah.
I can have fun, but also I can have a very thoughtful conversation. I can, you know help my community in the best way I know how, and not feel pressured by these norms or these like standards that people place upon us,
Yeah.
and just show up and take up space unapologetically.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's important for everyone, but I keep thinking about our we partner with a middle school trail running club, and the city they come from is 70% BIPOC. So a lot of the kids are BIPOC that are coming, and that's who I think about when I see these panels, and I'm like, these kids,
Yeah,
like we were just talking about earlier in the very beginning about representation and how much it matters. Like, I'm just thinking about them, how they it's just gonna be so cool to watch them get older and to stay in the sport because they're gonna continue to change it. But like
absolutely.
they need they need to see that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I hope that
absolutely. We have several young kids that started to run with us. We always say 14 and up is our cap, just for safety reasons,
yeah.
but we have several that are 14, 15, 16. I think actually there's three of them, three of our members. And I had the opportunity to run with the youngest one, who's 14, just several Sundays ago. And he asked me, he was like, so why do you guys do this like together, like a group? Like, is this like, do you guys compete? Like, he was really confused because obviously he comes with his parents and he didn't really understand like
Yeah.
what it was. So I started to tell him about Sin Miedo, and I told him that we were the only group like that in the area where we live, and beyond in that area in the south. His whole face lit up and he was like, really?
Love that.
And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is why we're doing," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, really," like, "Man, that's so cool." He's like,
Yeah.
So there's no groups like, like with Black people and Latinos like us, like anywhere that do this?" I was like, "No, this is it." And he was like, "Wow." He's like, "I really love that I'm coming then." And I said, "And you know
Mm.
what's even more important?" I said, "'Cause, I'm getting old." And he was like, "How old are you?" I was like, "We're not gonna talk about that." But thank you. All
Yeah.
that to say thanks. But I said, and one day, I'm going to be doing, yes, I'll always want to be running, but I might be focused on other things, and someone needs to help us continue to grow this group. And so
Yeah.
that is why it's so important that you're here.
Mm.
And he's like, yeah, I can help. I can help next week. Right. He
Love.
was so excited. And so you think about not just the people that rekindle that love with the outdoors and with trails, or maybe are experiencing it for the first time, but then you see this youth that's coming in and that they are willing to continue to carry that torch, and
Yeah.
they start to understand why that is important and the
Mhm.
experiences that they are having versus the experiences that their parents are having, right?
Yeah.
And why that is important and why it's important for them to speak up and for them to stand their ground and for them to walk tall and to be part of these initiatives.
Yeah.
And he's been sold ever since, and it's really awesome to get to experience that, because like you said, that's where the work really is can we
Mhm.
continue to thrive 10 years from now,
Yeah.
50 years from now, 15, whatever it may be. It's so much bigger than us, and we didn't really know that. I mean, I think we did know that, but we didn't really feel it
Right.
till we started to get this spectrum of people coming and saying, like, "Wow, I never knew that I needed this." I mean, we've even had people say, "You saved my marriage." We're like,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute.
Oh,
We didn't do
so
that.
powerful.
You did that. You're
Yeah.
here. You're showing
You're
up
providing the
together."
opportunity, though. You're
Yeah.
providing the
Yeah,
opportunity
exactly. And
in that
so
safe
it's been really
space.
really awesome to see these couples thrive together and race together and be
Right.
so excited about the outdoors together. And so
Mm.
yeah, we really have been over the moon grateful for the opportunities that we've been able to experience through others and their experiences. So super grateful for that.
Amazing. Well, yo, I know you got little guys around, so we've been chatting for an hour, so I want to be respectful of that. But this has been so much fun, and I appreciate the conversation and just being willing to chat about all these things. It's been really
Of
cool.
course. Thank you. Thank you for having me and for
Absolutely.
making space to be a passionate ally. We really appreciate that. We really, really do. Immediately when I met you, I was like, yep, this is what I call a passionate ally. And not just for BIPOC people, but for diversity across the board. I think I shared with you at the trail conference that I have a son who lives with
Yeah.
autism.
Hmm.
And the way that you show up for so many communities is just breathtaking, and it's so needed. So don't for a second that your work goes unnoticed and underappreciated. And we cannot wait to come out there and get us some SAS squad races under our belt. I always see them. I'm like, why am I so far away? We gotta fix this. And you were one of the first people that we came back and told our community about, and of course through Carolina, and we're just like, look, it's happening, and we've just been so excited ever since. So get ready. We're pulling up at some
Hey,
point.
I love it. It's good. It's gonna be good. And we had swapped this note before that like when Carolina says she's gonna make something happen, it's gonna happen. So I
Yeah.
know you guys are coming up to Dirty Jersey for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. From the dirty South to dirty Jersey. We got it.
That's right. Well, listen. Before we sign off, I want to make sure, and I'll put this in like the show notes and all that on YouTube and links and everything. But do you mind just sharing for people who are listening, like the social media handle, if there's a website, email, whatever, but whatever contact info you want to share, where people can learn more about you.
Absolutely. So you can find us at Sin Miedo, that's SINMIEDO Trail Runners on Instagram, or Sin Miedo Trail Runners at Gmail. And you can find me at YoFit, YoFit Runs, RUNS. So YoFit Runs. And yeah, that's where you can find us. Hopefully, we can connect. And I really want to ask your listeners to lean into what this is all about, and whether this made you inspired or uncomfortable or just maybe thinking of like, how can I contribute? Please reach out. I'm happy. My DMs are always open, my email's always open. I'm happy to have a conversation, to answer questions, whatever we can do to support this mission. We are there for it, so please do not hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of Sasquatch Trail Runners podcast. Appreciate you listening in. If you want to learn more about Sasquatch, our website is sasquattrailrunning.com, SASSQUAD, trailrunning.com. Sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, Sasquatches, all the things are at Sasquatch. So, yo, thank you again so much.
Thank you so
Truly.
much for having me.
All right, y'all. Until we see you again, keep it squatchy.